Vega Squadron come into the major as one of the biggest upsets of all time to even qualify for the major, because this is a team where when they made it to the last major qualifier for the E-League major, most people looked at their qualification for that tournament and they said, right, this just shows that the CIS region has been so successful because they'd had 3 teams that had made the legend spots at ESL 1 Cologne. They've been so successful that unfortunately they've been a victim of their own success, and as a result, the teams that are coming out of the CIS minor just aren't any good. These are just teams that are below par, but we've got slots for the qualifier, so some have made it through, but they won't do anything. Now, as we found out at that tournament, Vega Squadron was able to beat NIP, beat them handily and beat them on the map that actually NIP had been one of the best in the world on that year, cash. So that kind of gave us a little bit of insight as to, okay, maybe this is a team that can actually do something when they get to LAN and they play against the better teams. But even so, coming into this major qualifier, it was a pretty stacked qualifier. And even more crucially, it wasn't just some extremely good teams who will qualify. Kind of almost from 1 to 16, you had pretty good parity between the teams. So qualifying should have been even more difficult to get those 3 wins. So the fact that Vega Squadron was able to do so, they were able to qualify, they're actually at the major, does mean that, yes, while it was unexpected, while nobody knew that this is the kind of level we could expect from them and it wasn't just a one-off what happened against NIP, I think that they come in with a lot of uncertainty still about what they're going to do at the big tournament. We've never really seen them at that level before. Beyond the major qualifier in the past, they haven't been to the big lands. You don't see them qualifying. They don't even tend to be in a position online where you expect them to be in the top level of different tournaments. So they've got a lot to prove. You should definitely make a distinction between teams in past majors. In the early days, sometimes they would recruit lower level teams from smaller regions just to give them a chance. That's not what happened here. They qualified just like everyone else through the major qualifier against some of the other teams that are going to go on probably to have a good major, but they're coming in as a surprise package. People still don't really know what to expect from them. Their style of play is still fairly unknown because not many teams have matched up against them. So they have a chance to do something special, but if they do, it will be one of the great upset runs of the major. The player in Vega Squadron who is most often cited as their star player, someone who perhaps is a rising star within the CIS region, and we look one day, maybe he'll go outside of the Vega Squadron organization and play for a more well-known team, is probably Mir. He's someone where people have looked at his numbers. Yes, some of it's online, some of it's against lesser opponents, but within his team, he's the clear name that was standing out. And so the natural progression of how things go in Counter-Strike is when your team gets to a higher level and you're the star within your team, it's kind of that thing that, you know, all ships rise with the tide. Like, it's in a situation where people are looking at Vega Squadron like, are they a team that can do something? Can they cause upsets? And so naturally, we should be asking these questions of Mir. Can he match up against some of the talents we've seen come out of the CIS region? We know Flamey, Simple. We've had some fantastic players. More recently, we've obviously had Electronic come through. There's real talent in the CIS region, there always has been. It's whether they can get teams together that can harness that talent, so it's not just individual players. So the battle for Mir is not only to prove himself individually against the rest of CIS and Europe's best, but in his team. Can they be a good enough team? Do they have a good enough system? Do they have a deep enough map pool that he'll be able to shine through and show off his potential as a player?